there's always going to be hurdles, but having a purpose allows you to run toward that great purpose and overcome whatever the hurdles are. So I really think serving leadership rises and falls on that sense of purpose.
You're listening to the High Purpose Leadership Podcast with Mike McCormick. Conversations from leaders to leaders in this post-pandemic age. Hey, today is episode number 10. Congratulations to you and us in the Serving Leadership Podcast. Man, we began this podcast back at the end of May to highlight and talk about being a serving leader, why it's important to shift our workplace cultures from this top-down leadership model, and talk to people who are in the field, who have that mindset, and who are already making some differences in their own environment. So in the last 5 months, the podcast has been listened to over 355 times.
What?
So I know. Thank you so much to all of our listeners. It's just really encouraging and just so excited that we're kind of all part of this journey of learning together. So today, on today's episode, we want to recap a little bit of our season 1. So if you're new, welcome. This is a great place to start. If you want to dig deeper into any of the topics that we're about to go into, go back and listen to the episodes. They're so rich and so good. And be sure to kind of share with your friends too. Text it to people, let people know about the podcast and some of these topics that we're talking about. But let's jump into this. Our first episode, Mike, was with Dr. Ken Jennings. We talked about the career versus comfort struggle here. So recap us a little bit.
Yeah, well, I was thinking back about, what's something that each person said that really stuck with me and you as well. And the thing that stuck out with me about Ken's, who I consider a great partner in work, but also kind of the guru of serving leadership for our current age. He talks a lot about running to a great purpose. And of course, we're the high purpose practice. So I think this kind of gets at the heart of what a new kind of leader has in our day and age. So the two kind of extremes, I've seen many people, and maybe stereotypically my age and older, had a real career focus, and achievement and accomplishment in their career was really a big part of how they defined their identity. And on the other hand, we have, say, another generation, my age and younger, who's looking at that and saying, I don't think I want to sign up for that. I'm not all about my career anymore. In fact, I would rather have comfort. Usually they say work-life balance, right? So many younger leaders are saying no to responsibility and opportunities because they want a more balanced life. But what Ken told us was that neither of those is really the right path, because career that's all about you is still all about you. And comfort that's all about you is really still all about you. What we really need to have meaningful work over the long haul is a sense of purpose, something that's bigger than ourselves, bigger than our own accomplishments, and bigger than our own comfort, something that we feel deep down inside and really makes a difference in the world around us. And so having a sense of purpose is really what's most fulfilling and satisfying for us. That was my big takeaway from Ken.
Absolutely. I think when I talk to especially after COVID, right, there were so many people that realized, no, I don't want to be so driven and go every single day. And so then the pendulum swing just completely goes to the other side. And after about a year of that now, people are realizing, man, this isn't fulfilling either. This doesn't fill me. I was made for something. There's still a part of me that has skills and perspectives that I want to bring to the table. So what does that look like? And I think that this is such a great balance when we talk about it's not me-centered either way. It's not the ambitious. It's not the comfort. It is purpose and the middle ground here. And you know what? The reality is people are fickle. I'm fickle. If I have to be the point, the purpose of getting up every morning, and it's all about me, then my feelings are going to run me around the track. But purpose doesn't change. It's always there, and that should be the drive.
Yeah, and we're fickle, and life is hard. Leading is hard. And it's just getting harder these days with the challenges and divisiveness, and with social media. Everybody's an expert, better than you. They think so. It's a hard time to lead. So if you're just in it for your personal achievement or just in it for your personal comfort, you're probably going to check no to
Yeah.
leadership because it's not easy. It's not easy. But having a sense of purpose, wherever you are in the finish line that you want to get, there's always going to be hurdles. But
Yeah.
having a purpose allows you to run toward that great purpose and overcome whatever the hurdles are. So I really think serving leadership rises and falls on that sense of purpose.
Yeah, that's so good and helps build that resilience too. You get up, you're reminded, it's not about me, it's not how I feel right now. There's something out there to go after,
Bigger.
and
That's right.
that builds resilience. So good. And love that we started off kind of building this foundation right away about why this new type of leader, this new way of leading our teams and changing our culture is needed, and combating kind of what we're looking at, the burnout or the lack of drive, both of those,
Yes,
this
exactly.
combats that head on.
Yep.
So that was such a great way to start. And then we kind of transitioned to episode 2 with Dr. Arthur Satterwhite, and we talked about diversity and inclusion. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, Arthur, great friend and had so much helpful on this particular topic. The thing that stood out to me was the idea that diversity breaks down blind spots.
Mm,
And we all just have to admit, myself included, that we all just see life from a certain perspective. I was reminded of this the other day. I was taking my son to a college visit, and he's interested in engineering. And so they had this engineering school in an actual room where they're working on programming these little vehicles that kind of fly around, these drones. And so they were doing this programming exercise where they brought a cow into this engineering room, and they set all of these drones around, and multiple drones trying to work together, which was the engineering feat. And they would take the scan of this giant plastic cow. And the point of this was that the drones together could get a full picture of this plastic cow. What they were eventually going to use the program for was to actually help real farmers go out
mhm.
to their real fields who need to inspect their real cattle. And these multiple drones can go out and take photographs, essentially, or video, from the different perspectives and send that all back to a common
Wow.
place so that they get the full picture. And it just reminded me that, hey, on any particular problem or any particular project, we need a diverse group of people coming up out of the weeds and moving around to see that full picture. Otherwise, we're
Yeah.
just going to get a sliver of reality, and we're not really going to be able to make the best decision for the most complex
Yeah.
situation. So, diversity, getting different people in the room with different backgrounds, different experiences, different skill sets, different kind of superpowers that allows them to see things differently, bringing that all into one room at the table is super helpful to remove blind spots.
Wow. Yeah, and I think I love this drone picture and analogy. First of all, technology just like boggles my mind sometimes, just how creative
Oh
people
yeah,
are when it comes to using what we have and pushing the boundaries of our creation, and it's just amazing. But this is this reality of like not just one drone is required to kind of have a good sense of uh of what's happening, but multiple from a
yeah,
higher up level looking at it together. And
yeah,
it goes back to, just what the teaming and the working together, and who's at the table.
yeah.
So
I
diversity
was
prevents blind spots. Love that.
Yeah, that was my takeaway, but I actually was interested in yours. I know that's an important topic for you too. So what kind of stood out to you about Arthur's talk?
Yeah, one of the things that you and I had talked about was just the reality, it's preventing blind spots, but it's also enhancing belonging. And I love stories, and I'm always very connected to stories and people's experiences. And so when Dr. Arthur was talking about his hair story, and he just talked about how he had he's an African American man, and he had particular hairstyle, and going in and just being coached, and someone telling him like, "Yeah, your hair is just not professional." And I personally resonate with that, being Chinese myself, just various aspects of you throughout your experience and years realizing, "Oh yeah, that part doesn't belong in what people would say is the general norm," And in order to assimilate and belong, you have to check parts of yourself at the door. And that was so true, and I've never heard anybody say it quite like that. But just the realization that, there could be aspects of you that are rejected, and that actually prevents you from bringing your full self to the table. and bring your perspective to be part of the team, to add to bring some of those other, preventing blind spots kind of thing. And I think that as a leader, one, I'm sensitive to that now as I lead teams, just realizing, man, am I looking around and am I making sure that we're wanting to welcome people as their whole selves? And then two, just myself being sensitive and saying, I'm not going to check part of myself at the door. I'm going to be resilient
Mhm.
and bring all of me because I know that all of me has value. My perspectives and experiences have value. And so belonging something that I'm going after for myself, but then also as a leader, belonging something that I am creating for everybody else.
Yeah, and the team is the big winner there because
That's right.
when everybody brings their own unique contribution and those differences are celebrated and
Yes.
directed toward the higher purpose, then that's where the big win comes. So yeah, kudos to you for blind spots and belonging and being willing to bring everyone to the table to bring out the best.
Yeah, I loved that conversation. And then we moved into this beautiful conversation with Dr. Jim Barry. And we kind of looked inward and we talked
Yeah.
about mental health. So what was brought out from that conversation?
Yeah, Dr. Barry, also a good friend, and been working with them at West Virginia for a while now. And I'm just so impressed with him. Two things that really stand out to me. One is his mustache. I
Yes.
love the mustache. It just the handlebars, and literally the first time I had an on-site experience with him and several people from their department, people commented on that, but it became like a picture of their value, their actual stated value of fulfillment. That they wanted to have joy in their work, and they do a lot of hard work caring for a lot of people, and, for them to say, "Hey, we also want to bring back some enjoyment." That that stood out to me. But then also, basically the first episode with him was just about self-care. As a leader right now, especially coming through COVID, are you willing to do the hard work to be healthy yourself? Are you willing to listen to the warning lights on the dashboard of your car and pause and open the hood and say, "Hey, I need to check at something"? Are you willing to his point with Jim? I love what he said. It's okay to ask for help. It's
Mm.
okay. It's okay that we're not always okay. And leaders have a really hard time admitting that to themselves and certainly finding a safe place to do that with other people. But we've got to be able to find a place to do that. If we don't do that, burnout will happen. There will be destruction for others. We won't be very much able to help anybody else if we don't take care of ourselves. So that was really the first part that stood out to me on that
Yeah, his handlebar mustache is
one.
pretty epic.
Classic, yeah.
And I do love this idea that in harsh environments, you can still find fun.
Yeah.
And I think that there is this, and part of that is what I love is he has a great picture of purpose driven. Dr. Jim, though it's a difficult road, he gets up every morning and he couples it with fun. And so that builds such resilience. That's the reason that he's able to create such a joyful culture is because he's built this resilience to go after purpose. And he's saying, how can I couple that with fun? And so I just think that that's so great that his sense
Yeah.
of humor and,
Yeah,
you
he
know
models it too, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
no environment is perfect, but he'd be the first one, to tell you that, but he also lives it. When he shows up every day, he brings that. So, I think that the health factor of checking yourself, what sometimes we don't realize is how much we impact other people just by
Mm,
how we're carrying ourselves. So you're
mhm.
actually helping your team when you stop to take care of yourself because that rubs off who you are and your demeanor. It rubs off on your colleagues at work. It
So
rubs off on your partner, on your children, whoever. You bring that sense, that atmosphere with you. And so joy and health, those are my first. And then I really love the second part of really caring for the team.
Mhm.
That they have a thing called healthy healers, which was that they were looking out for other physicians as they cared for the patients. But this whole idea of, are we hitting the target? Yes, but are we caring for the team? That those are two equally as important. I thought that session may have been the most valuable as far as a big change in our world right now.
Mm. Yeah, and it reminds me of going the saying that you can't give what you don't have, you
Yeah.
know? And so when you're running on empty, then, as a leader, that's the trajectory that we're leading our team into.
Yeah.
I recently asked somebody, who was kind of going through this, like, "I feel like I'm burning out," and I asked them, "What do you enjoy doing?" Maybe, like, that's what you need more of, is something that you really enjoy doing.
Yeah.
And the answer was, "I don't know." And I actually have that answer quite a bit when I talk to leaders. "What do you enjoy doing?" And they're like, "I don't know, I just work all the time." And I
Yes.
just
Right.
realized, man, if we don't know what we enjoy, it's really hard to fill our tanks when we don't know. So, even going back to that, when checking that dashboard, what is on the dashboard? What are the rubric of the dashboard kind of thing? What are you
Yeah.
measuring?
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
so yeah, that's so good. And then from Dr. Jim's conversation of looking inward, we transitioned and built really upon that conversation, and talked with Jared Arnett about looking outward. And that, so there's like two things happening here, because it can't all just be inward and it can't all just be outward, right? And so it has to be both. And so Jared kind of walked us through collective impact. So now that we've kind of like taken care of ourselves, looked at what's inside, making sure that we're healthy. Now, what are we giving? How are we looking toward around us? So tell us a little bit about collective impact.
Yeah, I said this in the episode. I really think Jared has the secret sauce of a new kind of leader. His ability to bring people together, and specifically, we started talking about networking, and I loved what he said. A serving leader approach to networking does not start with a mindset of uh, "What can you give me?" or "What I need from you." It starts with "How can I serve you?"
Yeah.
Literally, a serving leader goes into new relationships saying, "How can I serve you?" And that simple little shift in our mindset when we engage someone new, how can I serve you? He said, it often gets reciprocated. If people know that you actually care about them, they're going to be more likely to care about you as
Mhm.
well. But you start that, you go first, and you bring that. I just thought that mindset shift was super valuable. And then he kind of went from there into partnering as well. And so the idea of not just how can I serve you, but what does a win look for us? So I have certain needs or objectives, you have certain needs or objectives. How can we both get a win out of this? But ultimately, what we're trying to do here as partners is accomplish a greater win, a
That's right.
capital W. That's the purpose. That's the magnet that draws us together. And he said, not everybody is a good candidate for partnering because not everybody cares about the same things.
Right.
But if you go into every relationship saying, how can I serve you? And then who else cares about the big thing that I care about?
Yeah.
That's when partnership's gonna happen. I'm big on Jared and really appreciated what he had to say.
Yeah, and I love the impact part of it too, is this outreach aspect. Who would miss us?
Yeah,
If
exactly,
we were
exactly.
gone, would people know? What kind of impact, what kind of lasting impact are you making around you? So such great conversations that we've had this season. Again, if
Been
you
fun.
dig into any of them, go back and listen to any one conversation. I've gone back and listened to them multiple times, and I always get something new. There's always something deeper, questions that I have that get my mind going. So we encourage you to go back and then share this podcast with other people, talking about 2023, which is kind of crazy. Um, where
Yeah,
has this year gone?
gosh, yeah.
But tell us what we can expect in 2023. What are some projects that you're working on as well?
Yeah, so, everybody that we did the, interviews with are current clients and work that we really started around the pandemic, so those were real conversations with real leaders who were doing real work, coming through, COVID, the pandemic, and leading out through that. So that's where we really felt like, "Hey, if this is what's happening on the front lines, there are probably other leaders out there who are wrestling with the same thing." Over the last year, the new projects that we've been taking on have been a lot more with this idea of teaming. And this kind of comes full circle to what Ken, in his interview, Ken Jennings talked about. He talked about serving leadership, but then part two was teaming is the new leading. And this is what Ken and I are seeing a ton of right now is that there is a move for diverse groups of people to come together for complex problems and projects that require multiple people,
Yeah.
places. processes, technology to all come together and integrate for a common purpose. And so we're doing a lot of these projects right now. We're doing them in healthcare. So there's some healthcare organizations where primary care has been in one world, behavioral health's been in another, maybe addiction another, and they're working to integrate those clinical services. In order to do that, they have to have a common communication vehicle, like an electronic medical record that can actually talk to each other. So they're creating technology and teams to be able to do that. They're also creating spaces, physical spaces. They're bringing people together, those different practice areas, along with things like outreach services, or other social determinants of health. So they're actually creating space. We're actually working with one group right now to create a war room in their organization so they can have a physical workspace with whiteboards and other things so that teams can come together and solve complex problems together.
Wow.
We're doing this out in communities right now. We're doing one where different community leaders are coming together to solve the issue of the workforce crisis. So
Mm,
we've got a representative from a local hospital, a community college, the health department, the Rotary, the local school district is coming together and working on some common projects. One thing we're looking at is an expungement process for people in our community who would like to work, have the great character, but have some kind of background legally that prevents them from being hired. They can go through a process and get that barrier removed.
wow.
Good people who want to work but have stuff in their background that they can get that taken care of. So how do we work together to create that kind of work? We're also seeing this kind of work done with social services around children. So things bringing like foster care, social work together, child and parent advocates to come together on the same team and
Mm,
do what's best for the kid and for those families. So all kind of we're doing a lot of this work right now. I actually was talking about the engineering trip I did. I'm at the school. They're talking about engineers, and they said, today's problems and the projects work on are so much more complex. Things like self-driving automated cars or taking a mission to Mars, like those kind of complexity problems and opportunities require people to come together and team. And so different types of engineers, civil, mechanical, electrical, like they all have to come together to put all their best thinking together to come up with those innovative
yeah.
solutions. So we're seeing it right now. We're doing a lot of this work right now, but we only see more of this coming,
Yeah.
that teaming is the new leading. And so if anybody's out there who you just know, listen, I've got a diverse group of people, or I'm trying to bring people together to break down some silos, and we just need some help with a process and some critical conversations for bringing our team together. Ken and I have mapped out 5 key conversations that those groups need to have. And it's really working well. So I see us doing a lot more of that in 2023.
Yeah, so good. And like you're saying, we're heading into even more and more complex things, issues, problems that need to be solved that require diversity of thought, that requires people to come together. And so if you're a leader out there and you have this in your head and you're looking around you and you just need someone to help be a part of a think tank, help you strategize, work through that. If you want to work with Dr. Mike McCormick and learn more about this teaming, the servant leadership model, head over to highpurposepractice.com. It has been such a wonderful season, and we can't wait for the next one. Thanks for listening to the High Purpose Leadership Podcast. To work with Dr. Mike McCormick, head over to highpurposepractice.com.